Hello, my friend. I am Charlie Simons, your host here on Do Not Talk. Talking to the people I'm not supposed to talk to and talk about things I'm not supposed to talk about. Like those J6ers who tried to overthrow the government just by showing up to the Capitol building. Some of them went inside the Capitol building, but that's because they were invited inside by police. I've seen the video, waving them in. Yeah, there were some bad people there too who were trying to stir up the crowd, breaking windows and so on. Those weren't my people. Those weren't the ones who want to make America great again. They were instigators. Many of them were. And now we know that to be true. We know that there were FBI agents there trying to get the crowd worked up. Of course, that was the Biden FBI. Really the Obama FBI, because that was still under President Trump, wasn't it? Either way, it was bad FBI. Now I believe we have good FBI. Not completely, though. Still some work to be done. If you're wondering, where are you, Charlie? It looks all weird. You're ethereal. You're just like a floating head in a sea of blackness. Well, yeah, I'm not here. I'm on the road. I'm actually doing a missions trip. First time ever learning about gleanings for the hungry. Gleanings. Gleanings for the hungry. And it's part of the food distribution program through Youth with a Mission. And I thank God for them. This is my first time actually doing some work with them, and I'm in a little old town called Dinuba, right in the middle of California. It's been an extremely rewarding experience, and I'm so glad I found out about them. I just feel so grateful. Thank you, Lord, for letting me know about what these people are doing, the food that they're distributing all over the world through you. They're being the hands and feet of your Son, Christ Jesus. Thank you for them. Please bless them, help them, reward them, encourage them, strengthen them, keep evil away from them. In your name, Lord Jesus, Lord Christ Jesus, amen and amen. When you fed the least of these, you were feeding me, Jesus said. When I was hungry, you gave me something to eat. Lord, when did we give you something to eat? When were you hungry? You do this unto the least of these, you're doing it to me. That's what powers this place, Gleanings for the Hungry. You want to look them up? You want to be a part of it? They could use your help. Absolutely, financially and many other ways. But you know who else could use your help? The people who are stepping out and doing the right thing and the bold thing and running for office. Last night, my president, my awesome president, he took the stage. Now, even though I am here on the missions field, basically, I was able to, after my work and after dinner, watch the President's State of the Union address last night. It was fantastic. Did you see this part right here? Watch. Did you see this? Tell me you saw it.
If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens.
All the Republicans standing. Let's see the other side of the house where the Democrats are sitting. And I do mean sitting. No, more than that. I want to see their side exclusively. Come on, Breitbart. Let's see the other side of the aisle. It's been up for over a minute, by the way. Standing and clapping. Except for the other side of the room, they sat. Come on. Yeah. Wait a minute. Yeah, there they are. See them? All sitting down. Okay, let's go through this a little bit. We'll just keep going and going. Look at them. Pigs. Just sitting there. Lump.
Isn't that a shame? You should be ashamed of yourself, not standing up. You should be ashamed of yourself.
There was it was Rashida Tlaib, it was Ilhan Omar, and it was the gaggle of shrews who were all screaming in the back through so much of the State of the Union speech, President Trump, screaming back there. Remember when Obama, probably the worst president this country's ever had, was president, did a State of the Union address, and he lied and just lied and lied. And finally, one of the congressmen shouted, "You lie." wish I could remember his name. Remember how everyone freaked? How dare you? So disrespectful. But whenever there's a Republican or a conservative president up there, look what happens. Never forget Nancy Pelosi tearing up the speech. They're pigs. They're children. They're petulant children. I'm sick of them. And what I love the most about my president is that he hates the left too, obviously. I'm not going to play nice. And I have so many on my side all go, oh, we need to play nice. We need to reach out. There's a lot of Democrats who are disillusioned and we just need to be nice to them. So no. I'm going to be the one to remind them of what they did for us 4 years during the COVID shutdown, celebrating when the military tried to kick me out, celebrating when people were getting fired because they wouldn't take that shot, celebrating when Charlie Kirk got assassinated. And now I'm supposed to play nice? No, you're done. You had your time and you proved yourselves to be exactly who you are. And President Trump called them out last night beautifully. That was brilliant. I respect and admire anybody who's running for office right now. I'm telling you, it's hard. It's hard, especially when you're fighting against your own Republican Party, for those on the right. And I'm seeing it now here in California with the governor's race coming up, and I've become good friends, and I support so many of the people who are running for office here in the state of California, and my own party, ignoring them because they're grassroots. See, they don't like that. They want establishment. They want Mitt Romneys. They want John McCain's everywhere. Not me. I'm not going to quit being a Republican. And I'm also not going to quit trying to run out rhinos. Yeah, that's what I do. So I want you to meet a guy who's running for Congress. He's out of Texas. Texas? You think, oh, it's all red and everything's good and you don't have to worry about anything. And they're safe districts, safe state. They're always going to be red. No, there's stinking infiltration there like you wouldn't believe. I'm sure he'll tell us about it. Oh, by the way, he was just featured on Tucker Carlson's show. Say what you will about Tucker Carlson when it comes to the whole Israel thing and all that. I don't know what's going on there. I do know I still like Tucker Carlson, though. I love what he used to do when he was on Fox News. I love his style of reporting. Much more natural. He's funny. He's funny as heck. Well, this guy was just featured on Tucker's show, and his name is Ryan ZINK. And he's on Do Not Talk. You ready? Hit it. Yeah! That's pretty cool there, Bubba. You're on Tucker Carlson's show. I got to watch some of it, even though I'm out here on the mission field, which is a lot of fun. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thanks for being had. That's my favorite joke. I'm sorry it looks like I'm floating around in a sea of darkness, but if I showed you I'm in a motel room, but it's not really a motel room. It's like barracks where we're staying in this mission field here. I'm with a group that came down from my church, and I worked really hard today. I did something I've never done before. Plumbing. No, keep me away from that. Water still working. No pipes are leaking. Believe me, you and I are both very surprised. But you come from a very interesting. You're a dichotomy. This is what I know about you from your dad, Jeff ZINK, who also ran for office, and he's got his own stories. I've had him on my show many times, and I love what he's doing now with working in the health field. You are well educated, but you're also a blue collar guy. I mean, you're working in the oil fields right now, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
What do you do?
So I'm a field safety coordinator. I run and audit about 55 gas plants, 4 water treatment plants, and several dozen employees.
Sweet, congratulations! Any one of those big oil companies that left California and went to Texas?
No, we're pretty centralized too. About as far as Jaldo, New Mexico, Artesia, Pecos, Texas, all the way over Midland, Odessa. So we don't have the problem with having to run from California.
California's in serious trouble. That clown that some people call the governor hairdo. 3 major refineries now are shut down. That's over 20% of the fuel production for the state of California and several other surrounding states. Our gas is now suddenly rocketing up, and it's just starting. It's supply and demand, man. Chevron left, gone. Phillips 66 shut down their refinery in SoCal. Valero shut down their refinery up in Northern California in the San Francisco Bay Area. And there's one other, I'm forgetting. Is it Exxon? Did they leave too? I think Exxon did leave. Anyway, we're in trouble, buddy. We're in serious trouble. Everybody's moving to Texas, trying to get out of California. How do you feel about that?
I think it's fine if they want to come here. I mean, longstanding policies by Gavin Newsom I'm sorry, Captain Beta Male, have just been, part of the process of why California has not been successful, and it's at the hands of the American people. I appreciate that oil and gas companies are trying to come to Texas. I appreciate that media companies and banking and all that, but leave the state that you came from where you came from, and come to Texas and learn our values and learn to appreciate, the way that we do things here. There's a reason why Texas is great. It's because up until about this point, it's really been untouched by Washington, D.C. or Austin, Texas politics or California politics. So that's one of the things that I see about it.
We seem to have, we as in collectively California, I am not of this mindset, but when I say we, I'm a fellow Californian, and we take our stupid ass politics with us. We'll move to Idaho to get away from what we have destroyed, and then we'll keep voting the way we did that got us destroyed. It's weird. It's like they have no sense of self-realization that, hey, perhaps I did this to my own state. It's the strangest thing. So how long have you been working in the oil business?
Oh, man, I mean, off and on since I was like 16. I started my first oil and gas jobs, working on summer projects, things like that, just to get extra money. There was a lot of odds and ends, weird jobs, painting poles, digging holes, that kind of thing, things that rhyme.
Good point. On January 6th, 2021, you were standing outside of the Capitol building. You first went to President Trump's speech, right?
Well, I tried to. I couldn't get in because I had all of my media gear with me.
They wouldn't let you in?
No, Secret Service was they're pretty uptight that day about where they were going to put allow people to go in with a backpack. So, just for the record, I was working for my dad, working on his congressional campaign. I went to school for media strategy, public relations, and I was actually a sports broadcaster for a little bit. I would cover Big 12 football games down on the field, basketball games, track meets, all that kind of stuff. And so I was used to riling people up, getting a story, getting things going, and I got hit by a drunk driver. And I had to stop work, drop out of school. And so I was helping my dad with his congressional run. We were at J6. So I had my camera, SD cards, my A-frame stands, just everything that I would need to, get some good B-roll footage, get some stuff together. And when we got up to, past the Washington Monument in Freedom Plaza, it just turned into this It was a really weird moment, actually, because the Secret Service announced, they're like, hey, we're not allowing any more bags in here. And there were people throwing backpacks in trees and planting them in bushes. And the Secret Service was cutting them down with poles. And it was, I don't know, it was really interesting.
Interesting, because people didn't want to throw them away and they didn't want to lose their place in line by taking it back to their vehicle, which meant
that's exactly what it was.
23 miles away. I'll bet, because I have friends who were there. It was bedlam. There were millions. There were over 1 million people just to hear President Trump and to be there at a lot of them didn't even make it to the Capitol building to let their voices be heard peacefully and patriotically, as President Trump said. So you didn't get to hear him speak. You didn't get to go inside. Did you hang out and try and listen a little bit, or just go, forget it, I'm going to go to the Capitol building?
So we decided that we were going to go eat lunch, and it's so ironic now because the building that we ate lunch in front of, I would get to know very, very well. 333 Constitution Avenue, the E. Barrett Prettyman Jackson Courthouse, was where I had lunch that day. So a little bit of foreshadowing, I guess, with everything that was going on. And then we made our way down to the Capitol. Dad had an interview with the Epic Times, I think at like 12:30, sometime around there. And so, yeah, it didn't hear any of President Trump's speech, really. It was just mostly stuff over a bullhorn, or like maybe people occasionally passing by if they had like a speaker clipped to their backpack or something like that. So,
yeah. And then?
So then after that, that was on the west side of the building. So the west side of the building is the only part of the building that had any type of signage up about no entry, and it was only in the scaffolding area. So the liberal media and the prosecutors and all the judges like to lie about this fact, and it's not even the correct signage. Actually, I have an official photo of what it's supposed to look like, according to the Capitol Police as well as the DC, the DC area. Like the actual legal posting that it's supposed to be was never anywhere around the building, so they absolutely entrapped everyone by not having that up. So the second that we finished that interview, like we're both like, I'm still hurt at the time, and Dad's not in the best of shape. You know, the Lord had recently just healed him
from the being hit by the drunk driver. Were you in a vehicle, or was it like you were on?
Yeah, I was in like a little van type deal. I was working, at a little part-time gig that I had. I was delivering packages, sometimes for the the USPS, and sometimes I was just delivering to like a business or something.
You hurt pretty badly?
My shoulder was kind of stuck up like this for a while for everything. I had to go through physical therapy for like a year and a half, 2 years, and then I'm still doing some. Yeah, I'm still doing some treatment for it now. Actually, I mean, we're talking like 6.5 years later. So
lunch is over. You're just with your dad, and did you still have all your camera equipment with you and everything? Which you got to be worrying about that now.
Oh yeah, I mean, I never lost the camera gear the whole time. That's why I was there, was to get pictures of all the cool stuff that was going on. And so we make our way around to the east side. We meet up with a bunch of people from Samoans for Trump, the anti-CCP for Trump. Just all these people that have, that have seen the dark side. There were North Koreans for Trump that had escaped. They were talking about the dangers of socialism, talking about the dangers of communism. Just basically they were talking to anybody who would listen about what they had been through, kind of like I'm doing now. And it really comes down to like this is the calm before the storm right here, because this was a really awesome moment, just to meet some people that had literally been like nearly beaten to death. If I'd only known that was foreshadowing for what would happen to me later. But after this, we made our way over. We were kind of standing on top of where the visitor center is, and there was a guy that I would later identify as Bill Dunphy, who was talking to a United States Capitol Police officer. And they were going back and forth on a bullhorn, and the Capitol Police kept saying, hey, we know that you guys have permits to be in this area. We're working with our supervisors and doing everything we can to get you guys, in here and upstairs. And we were like, what? They're like, upstairs? What are they talking about? So that goes on. And then shortly after this is when J6 really began. And, most people think that, it was already happening and there's all this stuff. It's not. It's immediately after Ted Cruz objects. It's like Ted Cruz, it says like I think the verbiage is there any senator, present on the floor that objects to the certification of the 2020 election? And Ted Cruz stands up and he says, I do. The senator from Texas is recognized. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, bang. J6 starts. And it is incredible to see, like, looking back. So the federal government has this huge camera that looks down over the Capitol. It's like 400 feet in the air on the east side. And to our left, before all this is going on, there's like some pushing and shoving going on over there. Like we could see police, Capitol Police bringing barricades up to the front but we couldn't tell what was going on over there. I mean, if it's just like one or two people, you know, that's whatever. That's a them deal. It's not like a whole crowd thing that's going on.
Yeah.
So they bring that out. I try to get some pictures. The DOJ would later use that against me because they were saying that I was like actively involved in trying to photograph and like promote that violence. I couldn't even see it. There's like 200 or 300 people in between me and where that was.
How would you be promoting the violence when you weren't even live? You're shooting pictures on a camera.
Well, they were saying that because of what I was saying, like on Facebook, you know, saying like, oh, because after everything opened up, you know, I was like, man, this is crazy. Like we have a you know, like an actual protest going on. Like there's people out here. Like we knocked down the gates. Like we're talking. They're gonna hear us today. And you know, I started posting things like we're storming the Capitol. Like this is crazy. I've never been around anything like this. You know, this is a freedom of speech area. This is not, you know, just, you know, your normal run of the mill day at that point. And
right.
you know, there's a police officer that later testified against me. He starts waving with both hands at this moment that, you know, all the barricades get opened up. And he starts waving and he's yelling like, come on, come on. Well, at this point, there's like 300 or 400 people that are on the right side of the building that are already inside of this little area. And we still don't go through anything. And we're just kind of hanging out for a second. And we're like, what is going on? Like, this is nuts. And then, you know, we start making our.
If I could interrupt, because I've talked to many J6ers. One comes to mind, Eric Christie. His whole, you know, personal war against the government was he was standing on an area that was don't stand on the grass, don't walk on this grass, and he had said there was a barrier up that said stay off this grass. They took the sign down, they removed it. So everybody there thought, well, I guess we can walk up there now, and they walked up.
Well, and there wasn't any signage, you know, outside of that. They had these, you know, they always call this the impenetrable wall around the Capitol. It was bicycle racks. And then you see cops that are like stacking them up, moving them out of the way, telling people like to come through into the area.
Yes.
And so that's what we did. We walked up into that area.
That directive, I believe, came directly from Nancy Pelosi, who then was Speaker of the House. I really think that was when she made the call. Yeah, let them come in, encourage them to come in, get them to come on in.
Well, I think it runs deeper than that from the new evidence that just came out this last week. So the Boston field office ran a tabletop operation back in September of 2000, or was it May? It was somewhere between May and September. That they set up a scenario just like what was going on at the Capitol about how they can entrap people and then utilize small crimes to like get huge convictions and sentences. And that was handed to Kash Patel last week. So I've added that into my lawsuit against the DOJ. This whole thing was set up from the start. Like we never, ever, ever had a chance to go into this. And that's why I wrote the name of my book. It's called Guilty Until Proven Democrat, because you just like you never had a chance. I mean, the judges were Democrats, the juries were Democrats, the prosecutors were volunteers.
It's worse than DC. The whole gulag there. It's insane. There shouldn't even be a city jail in a city that's not really a city.
Oh, it gets. I'll get to that after we get to the porch and everything for that day. Okay. So, like, I've got stuff for that. Because that jail was.
I love
closed
the title, by the way. That title's brilliant. Guilty until proven Democrat.
That's exactly what it was, and that's still the way that it is. You know, it's like Democrats get away with everything.
You're right.
But so we make our way up to the east side porch, and this is the porch that's in front of the Columbus doors. And the Columbus doors are 20,000 pounds. They can only be opened from inside of the Capitol. There's no way to penetrate these doors with these huge magnetic locks and everything that are on them. Somebody from inside has to communicate with somebody at the door, and they have to open them in unison. So we're standing outside of at the base of the steps. Okay, so there's like in hindsight, there's pushing and shoving at the front. I'm 5'8". I can't see over all of these people that are, in front of me. And so there's like a very small, like pushing and shoving. yeah, pushing and shoving episode of this. I mean, like locker room fights are worse than what happened in this situation.
Really?
So eventually, there's a cop that he comes down from the left side of the stairs and he opens everything up. And all of the cops, they turn around and they go stand in front of the Columbus doors at this point. So the Columbus doors, they're still closed. They're 20,000 pounds each. They're locked from the inside. And everyone starts making their way up. And I was like, well, this is going to be some great footage. And my dad starts walking up the stairs. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess they opened everything up. We can go up here. So then at this point, this is when everything starts to take a turn for the day. The first entry into the United States Capitol was Hunter Allen Empke. It's at 2:04 p.m. is the time now. And he jumps up on a ledge and starts punching and kicking out windows at the Capitol. So the Capitol Police, they come at him with a riot shield. They knock him off the ledge, take him into custody. I don't see an issue with that. I don't.
No,
so
me neither.
A whole bunch of people that were all dressed very similar. None of these people were arrested. I checked. It's 5 years later, still haven't been arrested or identified. So all these people, they start screaming at these police officers. There's like 7 of them up there, 8 of them, 9. I'm not even really sure how many at this point, going back through the videos. But they start screaming at them. They're like, hey, we're going to kill you. You're not taking him. He's one of us. You guys are traitors. They start yelling all this like dumb crap at them. And so I speak up and I'm like, hey, leave him alone. The police are just doing their job. He's breaking the law. That's not why we came here. They start talking crap back. And then I'd say again, like, he's breaking the law. It's not why we came here. And so at this point, this is when I meet one of the biggest liars on Capitol Hill. His name's Captain Benjamin Fluke. And I will always say and call everyone out by name that is a pathetic, pathological liar. And I asked this man, this police officer in uniform, how me and my father could help him. And instead of asking me, saying, you're not supposed to be here, you guys need to leave, you guys do this, he tells me to stay on the porch and take pictures of people that attack them. So I do. That's what I do. I stay up there. I start taking pictures. I'm going around. I'm thinking, all right, this is crazy. Like, he's saying, they're going to attack people. I feel like at this point that I'm assisting Capitol Police in something because it's obvious to me that the people to my left are not Trump supporters. They're not. So, at this point, I start taking pictures. I'm listening to a guy's radio that he's got, one of the other police officers. He was never identified. The government refused to identify him, even though despite the fact that we presented them with pictures of him. And this guy's giving me all kinds of information. He's telling me, he's like, yo, there's people have entered on the west side. And so I'm posting all this to Facebook. I'm like, people have, the Capitol's been breached. People have entered the building. And I'm like, man, this is crazy. So there's a couple of things in that I misspoke about because I guess we misunderstood in the heat of the moment. I posted like there's a fire inside, just like, all the information that we had at the time. I'm just posting.
That's how it happens in these kind of situations.
And at this point is when things like really switched, because I'm no longer like speaking out, saying like the stuff that I was saying, like in the comment in the free area, because now I'm working with Capitol Police. Like this portion of things has gotten a little crazy at that point. And this police officer has asked me to help and assist them. So I did. And then at this point, this is the part of the day where Ashley Babbitt is murdered. We hear the shots from inside as Michael Byrd murders Ashley Babbitt, an unarmed woman, by shooting her in the neck. And the Capitol Police officer that we were
walking around free, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, it's. I think we've been on the porch maybe 28 minutes, 32, 34 minutes at this time, somewhere around there when we hear the shots. I don't actually know the exact time of when like we heard the noise from inside.
All that noise and screaming and yelling and hollering and radios and flashbang grenades and everything. You heard that gunshot.
Yeah, we heard it. We heard it on the East Porch.
Wow.
Yep, sure did.
That was a sad thing. You've seen the video, I'm sure.
Two
crap Howard. All he did was you never even see his face. You just see a gun come out, and then all of a sudden just fires.
Yeah.
I'm like, what was that? Who was that? What just happened? Why was she shot? What was she doing?
Yeah.
What was she doing? How come? I would have lost my mind if I would have stood there and seen that.
Well, and at the other side of the Capitol, on the west side too, this is pretty near the time that Lila Morris is beating a woman to death. On that side, she's a Metro officer, and so multiple J6ers died that day. Kevin Greason, Roseanne Boylan was the woman that was beaten to death by Lila Morris. She literally beat her until she quit breathing with a nightstick. So there's for those of you that haven't ever heard that story, during the autopsy, they said that this woman died from an overdose, which was a complete and total fabrication and a lie. I know. I've seen the autopsy reports myself and talked to the families. So I had multiple witnesses. Tommy Tatum was one of those. He witnessed this woman being beat to death until she stopped moving. Well, even while she's on the ground, Lila Morris is still hitting her in the head with a nightstick. No police force across the country is trained to do that, by the way. So going back to the Ashley Babbitt time. So at this time, the Capitol Police, they think that there's a shooter in the building, and they think that it's on the floor below us. So I now have this on video. I didn't have this at my trial, but I now have this part of the day when the Capitol Police that were on the porch separate me and my father from the rest of the people that are rowdy protesters, and they move us behind their police line into the corner. And I'm, still doing my thing. I'm taking pictures and videos. Alex Jones shows up on that side shortly after this. And then this is the time of the day when Muriel Bowser sets that there's going to be a curfew. The police officers that we've been working with come over and they say, hey, it's probably a good idea for you guys to leave. Muriel Bowser has just said that there's going to be a curfew in place for tonight. The police that are coming to the Capitol are not going to be friendly. It's probably a good idea for you guys to get out of here. So we shake hands.
Capitol Police officer is telling you this.
Yes.
Wow.
So at this point, we decide to leave. Just before we're leaving, there's an injured Capitol Police officer that comes out. He's covered in mace. And I thought that I had regular water left in my backpack. And so I'm like, hey, we need to get him some water. The guy next to me had some water. He gave it to him so he could rinse his eyes out. And like I said, my dad worked in the medical field for a long time. So he offered to give this guy some help and he declined, which that's fine. And then we start leaving and I tell my dad, I'm like, hey, I want to jump up on this pillar real quick. Can you help me up here? Because I want to zoom in with my lens and see what's going on inside the building. And so after that happened, this is the first time that I actually saw somebody like shoving a police officer, like actually getting into it with them, because I hadn't seen the other two times, that the prosecutor bring up with, their, Eagle Vision cameras
So
and all their stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hey, you're shooting through a window into the Capitol building is where you're
Well,
shooting.
I'm looking through the now open Columbus doors that are 20,000 pounds that are standing.
Oh, we forgot about that
wide
part.
open.
The big 20,000-pound doors. They finally opened those, did they?
Yeah, they opened them up, and people were going in and out
Come
of the
on in,
building
everybody.
and being shoved inside of the building. So that's when I leaned down and tell my dad, I was like, we got to leave right now. I was like, this is getting out of control. We
You
make
never
our
went
way
inside,
around.
by the way.
No, I never went inside. So we
Remember
leave.
that.
Yeah, we leave after, fulfilling the duty of what I was tasked with by, Officer Benjamin Fluke. And we make our way back around to the left side of the building. And then we get over to the west side and we can actually see just like how many people are there. And, the prosecutor's like, oh, well, they were going around the other side to join in the activities to see what they could do. We were headed to the Metro. Like, the time that it took us to walk through from the left side of the Capitol building all the way across the west side, it was probably like 8 minutes. But this is when I saw something that I still can't explain to this day. I saw people changing out of Trump gear and into uniforms that all matched. So, yeah. So explain that one to me.
What kind of uniform?
Like a kind of like a low res digicam deal, pretty similar to what the Ukrainian army wears. Yeah, explain that one. So usually I kind of forget to explain that part in a couple of the other interviews. So we would get on the Metro, we would leave, we would come back the next day, I'd take some pictures of the damage. I was walking around thanking Capitol police officers.
Sorry for
Thinking,
interrupting, but you didn't by chance take any photos of them changing into those uniforms, did you?
I did, but the prosecution deleted them out of my camera. Yeah. So yeah, we now have my camera back. Well, that'll be relevant later too. So it's just we leave, we get on the metro. Like I said, we're walking around thanking Capitol police officers the next day. We're thanking the military members that are outside of the of the Capitol. I go and my great grandmother lived in D.C. right by the Capitol for several years. And so I went and took a picture of that house for my grandmother, who was passing away at the time. She wanted to see those photos, and I did get them to her before she passed away. And then, I go home. I go back to Phoenix with my dad. I go home. I'm hanging out. I keep talking to my dad. I'm sending footage out to media agencies, like, hey, here's some stuff from the Capitol. Like, I was really close. It was crazy. There's a lot of stuff that was going on. And then no call. I was thinking maybe the Secret Service, the FBI, Capitol Police, Metro Police, some kind of investigator was going to be calling to get the footage of what this police officer had asked me to stay on the porch and do. That never happened. So February 4th, at about 4 o'clock in the morning, the FBI drove through the front of my house with a 12-foot battering ram. They flashbanged my dogs to the point where both of them have PTSD. They broke every door in my house, stole several $100s out of my wallet, all of my gold and silver coins, some Roman coins that I'll probably never recover that were a gift when I was like 12 from a shipwreck. That only that particular batch of those coins was released to the public, and they were gifted to me by a family member. Those are gone. I found one. I had one hidden in a different place that they didn't find, and that's the only thing I still have. But there's like 40 of them missing. And then, they came in, they ransacked my house. I was forced to, stand outside of my house. It's like 14 degrees outside, and I'm out there in a t-shirt and some jogger pants and no shoes. They finally brought me a pair of slippers. They were actually a Halloween costume shoes that had like no laces, about this thick on the soles, and I'm standing outside in that. And then I would meet the world's most notorious liar, who's still employed by the Department of Justice. By the way, he's still actively working for the FBI. His name is Michael D. Brown. And this man would explain, would try to get everything out of me that he could possibly get. I refused to cooperate with him. I was like, I'll do whatever, but I'm not doing it with y'all because you're not my friends. I don't trust you. Just take me to jail. So at this point, this is when like the threats already were coming in. And I would like to remind everybody that the Trump administration arrested 67 January 6 defendants prior to Joe Biden, who in 6 months arrested over 600. So I'm taken into custody by the FBI, and then I'm transferred over to LPD, the Lubbock Police Department. And the police officer who takes me into custody pulls over once he gets past the blockade. So remember, like 60 federal agents completely surrounding my house, shut down for blocks. They shut down the entire neighborhood and wouldn't let anybody in or out. And they had a helicopter. And he pulls over once we get past this, shuts off his body camera, shuts off the car's camera, and turns around and says to me, "We wanted to do this a different way. We know that you have multiple friends on the force here, and you've supported us for a long time." And to what he's referring to is that sometimes, on several occasions, police officers would text me and be like, "I'm on a sting. I'm hungry. I need somebody to come over here that looks like a college kid and like drop something or whatever." And I would take these guys like dip or food or whatever because they're my friends. And
Right.
They threatened them and told them, if you say anything to him, if you tip him off in any way, shape, or form or measure, we're going to strip your badge and you're going to wind up in jail with him.
Okay.
So this is when the journey began. The diesel therapy, that's a term that I've coined out. It's basically where they just move you all over the country so nobody knows where you are. The punishment is the
they've
problem.
done that to all of them, and it was also just to make it to where they couldn't even get friends and family to come visit them. It was horrific what they did.
Oh, we couldn't even, like, I only had phone calls in like 3 of the facilities that I was at. Was I ever able to, like do something?
Yeah,
And
when I first interviewed Eric Christie, he was still in jail, not prison. They were not put in prisons. They were held in this gulag in D.C. And he got 15 minutes. And the recorded voice would come on and say, you were about to speak with somebody from whatever correctional facility. Do you accept the call? Yes. And then you got 15 minutes and they just cut you off. That's it. Boom, gone. That's all he could do. So many of them lost everything. They freaking lost everything. They maybe didn't have family like you did that was supportive. They lost their homes. They lost everything. Their jobs.
We lost a lot too. I'll get to that part too, because I do consider myself one of the luckier J6ers, but it was definitely a trying time. So
So the police are saying, yeah, we like you. We know of your support of law enforcement. Sorry we did it this way. Sorry we traumatized your dogs and kicked in your doors with a frickin' battery ram. What time was it, by the way?
It was like 4 a.m. They say the raid happened.
They always do that crap. They love to do early morning stuff like they did to Roger Stone and Paul Manafort.
It was dark outside. They say that the raid happened before, after 6. No, it didn't.
They love to do that. They want to try and catch you looking your worst. I'm sick of this. This makes me so ill. I'm sorry, Ryan. I'm sorry for interrupting. Go ahead on, buddy.
So I spent a short amount of time at the Lubbock County Detention Center, and everything was fine there except for this one lesbian chick who was always in a bad mood, throwing stuff and putting people in isolation. I knew multiple of these, officers that worked up there as well, and they would come and check on me, and everything was fine. And Lubbock County is a mix of things. But after this, I would go to Eden, Texas, where I would excuse me, real quick. I would get an impromptu, interrogation by one of the staff members there who was trying to play, like Captain Save America, completely violated my constitutional rights.
You were there to overthrow the government. You were being subversive. You were doing this. You were doing that, trying to get you to admit to anything. You're either going to sing or compose, as they say. They'll grill you until you finally confess something just to get them to shut up and stop it because they've worn you down so hard. Were they doing that to you?
Yeah. I mean, they tried everything that they could at this facility, but I wasn't there long enough to have to deal with it. But he's in the lawsuit, so we'll see him try to wiggle his way out of that one. And then after this, I would fly on Conair. Not once, but twice. I would fly into, I would go to the sorting facility just outside of Oklahoma City. And then I would fly again out to either Jersey, Pennsylvania, somewhere over there. And then we would get into a van where we would drive for hours with no break, no bathroom break, no anything. The officers that actually had us in that van got pulled over for speeding like 20 miles an hour over the speed limit. They would stop and go relieve themselves, and we were stuck inside of the van the entire time. Getting to DC was a completely different feeling. You could tell.
Who told them, by the way? Now you're still in Texas when this is going on, right?
No, that's in Pennsylvania. Somewhere. Pennsylvania. I don't actually know where we landed. I don't know what that airport was that we landed at, that they took us into custody to drive us over. So it was Jersey, Pennsylvania, somewhere within like
all prisoners this way, or was it just because you were there supporting President Trump?
I think it was because of the fact that I'm a white Christian male whose father was a Republican politician working on the audits and helping Abe Hamadeh and Kerry Lake get their elections over the line in Arizona. That's the reason I think that I was arrested, not because of what I did, because I didn't do anything. Like
to make your dad look bad. No, you did not.
Yeah, but it was.
That's why I asked. Did you ever go into the building? No, you did not. You never did. Did you ever go walk on any sign, stand anywhere that said no trespassing, don't walk on the grass or whatever? No, you did not. You weren't even in there hearing President Trump's speech. You were just at the Capitol building. You were on the west side, you said, or east side?
The east side.
East side, okay. This is
horrible. So they get you to Pennsylvania. They're sending you back to DC, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah. So so we go on that long road trip, and then I get to DC, and this is when everything just turned just drastically. So the first thing that I get handed when I get to the DC jail and intake is a moldy sandwich and a bag of water. And
a bag of water, not a bottle.
Yeah, that was how they did it on the intake side of things. So then I would go through, intake, and no one on the intake side was from the United States. They were basically like all Somalians, and they were very rude. They would punish you for asking questions. I have scars on my wrists from how tight they put the handcuffs on me, to where blood, poured out from my skin over how tight that they put them on me. And then I would be taken upstairs to the first pod, to C2B, and I would be placed into a cell that had a 1/4 inch of urine and feces all over the floor. Not mine, someone else's. No running water. I was in this cell for days. Okay. And I got an attorney call. My attorney asked to see the conditions that I was in, and they immediately moved me all the way to the end of the block to an empty cell that was down there instead of that one. And obviously I got somebody in trouble, because at this point, this is when every single meal, if I got one, if there was anything inside of the container that I received, was covered in bleach or some kind of cleaner that came from the kitchen. Sometimes it was liquid, sometimes it was powder formed. They were doing everything that they could possibly do to, I believe, to murder me. I think that's what they were trying to do. I think they were trying to kill me in custody to silence me, because I was, my father was very outspoken. He was already doing news interviews at the time, talking about the injustice of this. And so at this point, this is
one of them was with me, by the way. We did a whole show about you.
So yeah, I thank you for that, by the way, because I think it did help.
It helped.
And so we always have to keep talking. So at this time, like, it's been days since I've showered. It's been like days. And I was finally let out for a shower, and I see somebody going in my cell, and I'm thinking, like, well, what are they going in there for? Like, there's nothing in there. And that person that went inside of that cell, that officer, placed raw chicken inside of my water line. Several pieces. So I didn't figure this out until like several days before I was released. And so I had nothing to do in the cell. I asked for a Bible every single day that I was at this facility, and the only thing that I could get was a book. It was a book about a slave owner who falls in love with a slave, gets her pregnant, and runs away to the north, cheating on his wife and breaking up his marriage. And that was an 8th grade reading book for Washington, D.C. Perfect reading for 8th graders, by the way. So I remember getting to this point in my journey. The only reason that I knew that raw chicken was in my water line was because I was drinking out of the bag that my soap came in. That was what I had to drink out of. And I was very sick. I was vomiting all over the place, nosebleeds, just runny nose, diarrhea.
Salmonella will kill you.
Yeah, and my stomach hurt so bad. And I kept asking to go to the doctor. I kept asking to go to the infirmary. Every request that I made at this facility was completely denied. Not one time did they ever do anything for me constitutionally that would have allowed me to either file, some kind of grievance or to get medical care. So I went into this facility at about 180 pounds, and I came out at about 130 through this entire process. And I remember looking out over the cemetery after I saw the little pieces of chicken inside of my water line. And I remember thinking to myself, like, what did I do to deserve this? Like, I'm going to die in here. And I would look out over that cemetery where people would walk their dogs, and I would think to myself, like, are they just going to bury me in there, and my family's never even going to know, like, what happened or where I am? And then my dad, I got an attorney call, and when I say an attorney call, I mean they hand you a blue receiver phone that's hooked to an iPhone, and there's a woman, she was a Chinese woman, that was standing there taking notes of everything that I said. Everything that I said. This is supposed to be a private attorney call. I didn't get that privacy. I was completely denied the constitutional application of that. And so at this point, I tell my dad, I'm like, you have to get me out of here. They're going to kill me. This is very real. This is not something to joke around with. They're going to kill me. And
you were talking about the Chinese woman. How do you know she was Chinese?
You could tell by looking at her.
Okay.
So,
well, there's a lot of Asians who, you can't really tell. Did she say? I mean, what's the relevance of that? Was she there? Was she here from China?
Well, it was the accent. It was the appearance. That kind of thing.
Okay.
So,
well, what was she doing?
She was writing down everything that I was saying to my attorney, literally word for word. She was writing it down. And so I was denied that.
Unless your attorney invited this person in, how can they do that?
Well, because DC doesn't care about the law. They haven't for a long time.
Which is why I made that statement and really pointed that out. There should not even be such a thing as a city jail in a place that's not really even a city. It's a District of Columbia. Why is there a police force there? This gulag.
Why are there so many judges there that are appointed? I mean, I'll digress from that, but yeah. So
she's taking notes while you're having a private meeting with your attorney, which is completely unconstitutional.
Yeah, and illegal, and actually multiple felonies on her part. So I would really love if the Department of Justice, hey, Michael D. Brown, why don't you look that person up and let's see if we can get them convicted. What do you say there, bud?
Say there, Bubba.
So, that is one of the things. I would later find the chicken in there. I'm looking out.
How did you find the chicken, by the way?
A piece of it fell out into that little bag, and I was running it through my fingers, and I was like, this looks like meat, but I hadn't been eating meat because everything that was meat would just soak up the bleach. And so then later I would be getting another drink, and another piece, a little bit bigger piece would fall out. And then I used my government issued toothbrush that was like this big, and I stuck it up inside of there, and 3 of those pieces came out, and it was raw chicken. So,
you actually caught the dude going into your cell. You were coming back. They didn't expect you to come back so early from whatever it was they were taking you to. I don't know.
Well, I saw him.
They got you out of there for that reason, didn't they?
I believe so. Yes, I think it was done with intention to actually kill me.
I agree. Salmonella can be extremely deadly.
Yeah. So, and at that point, so a couple days later, I would go down and have a private, I would finally get arraigned. So this whole time I've been in custody for weeks and weeks and weeks. We're talking a month and a half nearly of being in custody, and I still haven't been arraigned and don't know what charges I'm facing. So
none of you did. Because they didn't bring any charges against you.
Well, and I think that
they
lawfare was.
If I could, tell me if I'm right on this. This was my understanding. That according to other J6ers I've talked to, they would take you into hearings, but then no charges would actually be brought, and they would take you into a back room, and they would really start trying to get you to, oh yeah, I did this because President Trump told me to. Oh yeah, I was trying to.
Well, that's exactly what
government.
The plea deal said. Yeah, they knew I wasn't talking. I wasn't talking, period. So, and then so I would get out shortly after this, and then 4 years would go by. 4 years. And it's just insane to me. The government swore up until the day of trial that I had beaten police officers, gone into the building, that I had come there with a group, that I was one of the main leaders in all of the activities that were going on, that I was supportive of the violent crowds. They made up all this stuff. And I was tried by James Emanuel Boasberg. He's a Skull and Bones member, a satanic organization in Washington, D.C. He is a Democrat that has donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to Democrat causes across the country. All of my jurors were Democrats. My prosecutors were Democrats. They coerced the Capitol Police to lie. I now have them on perjury, and I'm suing over that as well. They have no excuse for the video. I got it. You're screwed. I hope that you're sitting there wondering and waiting what this video looks like, because I can prove in its entirety that it's real, because it was a government exhibit in somebody's case. So good luck. And, it just amazes me that I went through all of this. I was convicted in September of 2023 of a felony and 2 misdemeanors. After it was, multiple felonies, they were trying to give me decades and decades in prison. And, it just really became a point of no return, because there's nothing that you can do except keep your word, believe in Jesus, and focus on that. And so I get to this point, and I have to go back to a point in the cell, because I knew that God was with me in the fire. And I talk about this every single time, is that on the day that I was looking out over the cemetery, and I was thinking and wondering to myself if I was going to die, I prayed to God, and I said, God, why am I here? What did I do to deserve this? And I felt this overwhelming peace come over me, and it filled the whole cell. It was all around me. And
I love that. I talk about that a lot. Never forget, when you're at your darkest and you think there is no hope, remember the Lord promises a peace beyond all understanding.
Yeah.
Just ask Him for it.
And so, I very clearly heard a voice, God told me, He said, for I know the plans that I have for you. Stay where I put you. And He was with me in the fire. It was like, even at trial, I didn't even really care anymore, because it was just like, I knew what their plan was. I knew what they were going to do. They were going to lie and steal. They'd already stolen an election. And, it just comes down to the fact that that's the reason that I'm running. Outside of the fact that during all of this process, me and my wife had 2 miscarriages. The blood of my children cries out for justice. And that's why I'm running. And this is why I find it so important that, people step up in their faith and they move forward into a district like mine. So I represent a farm district. Obviously, I'm, ag and ranch all day long. I have a huge love for farmers. I think that far too often our district gets overlooked when we are the food, fiber, and fuel of America. District 19 is over 30,000 square miles. And the Farm Bill doesn't cut it. There's lots of issues in our area that are very dangerous, that they're national security issues. Like our district, Dice Air Force Base, protects the nukes at Pantex. Our district is a king of cotton. Anything that you're wearing that has cotton in it, there's a pretty good chance that some of it came from my district. We have thousands and thousands of small family farms, and yet the federal government continues to bail out major ag corporations. Even now, I'm running against a lobbyist. Somebody who worked for major ag is now trying to run to represent the people of this district.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, he's got like $1 million in his coffers, and people are endorsing him left and right. And it just doesn't make any sense to me anymore. And this is why I say this with bold faith, that the church needs to come out and vote. Only 12% of the body of Christ comes out to vote. 12%. That's terrible. You know why our world is in the condition that it's in? Because 12% of the church is voting. That's why. If 100% of us got out to the polls, here in my district, the early voting ends on Friday, and the election is March 3rd. And if every single person from every church in 33 counties in my district got out and voted their faith, researched their candidates, got behind, and they have to really research the candidates, because there's a lobbyist in this race, there's a liar in this race, there's a socialist in this race, and then there are some guys that I feel like ran for the right reasons, and I don't like to dog them, but some of them don't have any plans whatsoever. They just mimic great talking points from other candidates who are in it. Yeah. One of them's too old to be in there. A dying country has dying leaders. 80 years old is far too old to be in Congress. And and then I've got a guy that I really like. I think that he would represent the district well. His name's J6er. And I would be perfectly fine if I lost to him. But I'm still trying to win this. because I believe that there are good men that are trying to, right the wrongs inside of the system, but oftentimes it's tough for Christian men to say and stand on principle and stand on faith, because if you won't kneel for the cross and submit daily, you'll stand up for anything. And that's where we're at in this society. And that's why, I tell people that my platform is literally, there are 3 books that govern this land: the Bible, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. And those 3 play off of each other. And Christian men, the Constitution and the Bill of Rights were written for men who believe in Jesus. You had to be a believer to be a leader in the original 13 colonies. Mm-hmm. And the thing is that whenever everybody says, well, the government is completely separate from that. No, it's not. Because when you take your oath, the last thing that you say is, "So help me God." And if you don't believe in God, that oath doesn't mean anything. But for someone like me, who understands that a fear in God is the beginning of wisdom, that is where we gain and garnish true wisdom to run and lead our country. And I think that that's something that people have forgot. And that's, another thing. Like, Texas is very scary right now. We have an Islamic invasion. And people always say, well, you say you're a Christian and that this is the United States, you have to stand up for other people's religion. No, I don't. I don't have to stand up for them. I don't have to stand up for a religion that enslaves women and children and advocates for rape and advocates for cutting off the hands and feet of Christians and advocates for lying, torturing, slandering, belittling, beating, murdering people in the name of a false God. I don't have to stand up for that. I have to stand up for the people of my district to make sure that they are represented by somebody who will fight for them, unlike the representation that I had, because Jody Arrington did not stand up for my constitutional rights. No one did. In fact, there were only 2 men in the entire country that stood up to fight for me: Dustin Burrows and George Santos, former Congressman George Santos, who would later get the same prison experience that I got, for some alleged campaign violations. I love George. He's a nice guy. Anybody that's ever met George, he's a great guy. He's a wonderful man. And there's still things about his life that I don't agree with. And this is the point of our country, where we're looking at the new threats that are coming in, that I know are going to be.
You froze up.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, boy, I'll tell you, it's been weird, all the stuff that's been happening while you've been talking about these things. I hope it's coincidence.
It's probably not. The thing is that, in Jesus' name, we declared no more distractions. The word of God must be out.
Amen.
So we'll start there and see where it goes. And, the American people are being lied to about a majority of issues, and division across this nation is at an all-time high. So we have to do 2 things to combat that. We have to find common ground, right? Well, the only common ground that I can remember is that everyone here is a sinner. So I don't like to attack people, because some people are lost, some people are ignorant, some people are stubborn, and then some people just will always say no to the Lord. But common ground is what's going to win this country back. And so with that common ground, it's a common threat. The Patriot Act needs to be repealed. It is the one document that the United States made an absolute mistake on 9/11. The Congress would pass this act, and it allows you to be categorized into terrorism levels. So for me, I was a white Christian nationalist, and I'll claim that all day long. I will serve Jesus, and I will stand up for the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and a small form of government every single day, all day long, no questions asked.
I will say, if you're in his district in Texas with the stats he just threw out, let me throw out some statistics from California, which just makes me sick. 1/3 of the population of California claims to be Christian. Certainly doesn't mean they all are, but they claim to be. A lot of them are this because they belong to a club. But they only, out of all those that claim to be Christian, only 40% of them are even registered to vote. And when it comes to primary and midterm elections, it's in the teens. It's a dismal turnout on the right. That has to end immediately. So you out there in Texas, you're watching this, you got a man here that's one of you. He understands what you need. He has stepped up after going through all this torture and torment from our own U.S. government under the reign of terror of Joe Biden. and now he's running for Congress. I don't know of any other J6ers who are running for office. I think that's amazing that you're doing this, because so many of them are really bitter. They're just bitter, and you can't blame them. But they're that you are running for office, and all of you in Texas, if you're not showing up to vote in your midterm elections like this, congratulations. You're no better than the Californians who have watched their state devolve into a complete lunatic asylum. It is crazy, and it's because we're not stepping up. We're not getting involved. We're not voting. We're not even freaking registered to vote. Buddy, I don't know how we come back from all that. And we're like, oh, Trump is going to fix everything. Stop it. We got to act locally to impact nationally. We got to get involved in our local races and what's going on. I want you to win so badly now, buddy. I am in your camp. I am absolutely on board. How do we reach you? How do we find you? And how do we get your book?
So the book's not finished yet. I got kind of hung up on the part about the miscarriages. I won't lie. I had to remove it and leave it in the shop for a while.
I'm sorry that happened. I'm so sorry.
But if you're looking to find more about the first thing is I would appreciate if everybody would share this message and share the Tucker Carlson message so that it gets a wider reach, because it is helping with my fundraising. But if you like my policies, if you like, what you see, you can go to ryanzink.vote. That's my website, or you can go check out and see who I really am. And then you can follow me on Ryan Z for Congress on X. And I'm very active on X. I don't trust Facebook. None of you should either. I would highly, highly encourage you to get on X and go ask Grok about the bylaws and what Facebook is allowed to do with your information. It's very, very interesting.
They deleted me off the platform entirely. This past summer, they deleted every single one of my pages, Instagram as well, which is owned by Facebook. I've been deleted from the platform entirely, so I'm no longer under their shadow. But I agree with you on X. Thank God for that. Thank God for Elon Musk. YouTube, I'm barely hanging on. I got 2 strikes against me. They keep threatening me. Maybe this show right here with you will be the final 3rd strike.
I'm sure it will.
Whatever. So I'm all about Rumble. I'm always saying go to Rumble, rumble.com/do-not-talk. Go to Rumble. Forget YouTube. They're doing everything they can to dismantle and destroy what our president is doing.
Censorship.
So Ryan Zink, spell it ZINK, right? Just like the mineral.
Correct.
Ryan Zink .vote.
.vote. Get out and vote.
Yeah, exactly. That's excellent. And good luck with that book. I would sure like to see it when it's done. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry about everything that happened to you. Just know that there were people out here who were praying for you, who were screaming about the injustice, who never shut up about it. I was one of them. Believe me, I've paid the price. I've had a lot of J6ers on telling their story. There's a lot of similarities, but yours was next level. This whole putting raw chicken in your water supply and so on, that is insane.
Yeah, it was difficult to go with. God was with me in the fire. And I promise you, if there's anybody out there that's, kind of on the fence about where your faith lies, just remember one thing, that it doesn't matter where you're at in your walk with Jesus. Jesus says, come as you are. He doesn't tell you, come to me whenever you fix your addiction with pornography. He doesn't say, come to me.
Your world straightened out. Yeah.
Like he just says, come to me. You build that relationship, and I promise everything will start falling away. Every day that you deny yourself and pick up your cross. I'm not going to say it gets easier. It doesn't get easier. God's promised us that, we're going to face persecution and trials and tribulations, all in His name. But it's worth it. And
I hope the people in your district do the right thing and elect you. I would love to see that happen. Somebody who actually went through all that trial and torment just because you showed up to peacefully and patriotically let your voice
be a journalist.
And to be a journalist on top of that, that's what you were doing. And then to be treated that way.
is absolutely unacceptable in our constitutional republic in the United States of America. By the way, get rid of DC. President Trump, please get rid of DC, period. Just make it a state, make it a city, do something. This whole District of Columbia thing is pathetic.
I don't want those people having a vote. I don't want to see it into a city. I don't want to see
it. Just okay, good point.
Yeah, just strip away all the federal powers. Get rid of James Emanuel Bothberg and his minion of madness in DC. Strip the FBI down to where they're walking the streets only as patrolmen. Arrest everybody that was involved with the cover-up of Epstein Island in January 6th, amongst other crimes, and give the power back to the people. The power needs to go back to the states. That's what I'm fighting.
And if you're discouraged, like many of my friends are, saying, I'm so discouraged, I'm not seeing any arrests, I'm not seeing anything happen, people aren't being brought up on charges. Well, look what happened with James Comey. Look what happened with Letitia James. There's still very wicked people in tremendous positions of power as judges who were appointed.
And we all face judgment. It's coming in this life or the next.
We got to get rid of those, and we really can't impeach them until we get a good majority in the House and the Senate. So it is imperative that we show up this year to vote. And in California, show up for the primaries, because that's where the elections are won and lost, in the primaries here in California. I don't know about Texas, but that's happening in June, the first Tuesday of June. We need you. We need you registered to vote. We need you showing up.
Absolutely.
Man. All right, my friend. Keep in touch, please.
I will. Thank you for having me on tonight. I appreciate it.
All right, brother. Anytime. And you want to support this show, you can do that through charliesimons.com, CharlieSimons.com. I got a merchandise store there. You can buy some of the merchandise. That helps. You can actually give. If you can make some contributions, please do. There's several ways on my website there, including Give, Send, Go. Thank God for them. Venmo, PayPal. There's several different ways to support and help. I really need it, especially after this mission trip. This is the only show I'm doing this week, was with Ryan. And I'm on location. And thank you to the Gleanings for the Hungry. That's the nonprofit that's feeding the hungry in the world, doing such an amazing job all through Youth with a Mission. YWAM. You might be familiar with YWAM. That's what they're called. May God bless you and keep you. May God bless America. But most importantly, America bless God.